What did you know and when did you know it? In other words, if you had information up front, but chose to overlook it or ignore it, and then after the loan estimate goes out, you choose to recognize it, guess what? That doesn't count as a changed circumstance. That's why we're talking about this. You need to take into consideration with the original build of the loan estimate all the information you have at that time. Then if you receive new information after the loan estimate goes out, or information you had changes, hence the term change circumstance, then you can issue a revised disclosure based on those purposes or based on that information. So we've got to build it in good faith up front. If we do that, then we can access and utilize the change circumstance rules that are available to us. If we don't build in good faith up front, okay, those change circumstances aren't going to be there for use if we believe something changed, but it's information we already had, but we didn't consider at the outset. So what did you know and when did you know it? Let me give you an example. So one of the TRID 6 that triggers a TRID application and a loan estimate to go out the door within 3 days is the property address, okay? And so what do you know about the property at that time? So if you know the property is an address that consists of maybe 25 acres as opposed to a small quarter acre, you need to take that into consideration with respect to the appraisal and anything else that would be impacted by what you know about the property at that time. But if all they gave you was an address and you had no idea whether it was an acre or a quarter acre, okay, and then you later find that out after the loan estimate goes out the door, well, then that could be potentially a changed circumstance depending on what the increase from a quarter acre versus a 25 acre parcel of land does to the third-party services and other fees and charges that were estimated originally in good faith with what you thought was a much smaller property. But if you knew it was a larger property, then you have to take that into consideration. Okay. Other examples that we've run into is it's not the run-of-the-mill home. It's a historic home. It's a mansion. It's something that's not your typical 1 to 4 in your typical lending area. If you know beyond that up front, you have to take that into consideration. So what did you know and when did you know it? When we finish out this page, I'm going to talk to you about this story and the details. And so I'm going to bring it here and then I'm going to close with it at the end of this page. But you're telling a story. The next person that picks up that loan file should be able to figure out what's going on and should be able to figure out, hey, why and when changed circumstances occurred based on the information that you've documented. If the next person can't figure out how you got from A to B to C to D, etc., and they have to imagine it and make it up, hey, they're not likely to imagine and make it up the same way you did, absent you providing them the details that are going to lead them there. Because it's likely to be an auditor or an examiner, and there's a reason they're an auditor and an examiner and not a loan officer or a processor like you. They're wired differently, which means their imagination is going to happen differently than yours would. So lead them on the journey instead of sending them blindly on a journey where they're not going to imagine it the same way you do. So those details matter. What did you know? When did you know it?